Hello, Henrik, and thanks for joining us in today's call with on Scouted by GreyB. I'm Shabaz, and basically today I'm going to be your host, and I'm going to help our audience understand what Reselo is doing, and basically we'll talk about the innovations and solutions that Reselo is trying to bring to the market. Uh, so, Henrik, when I was reading about Reselo, and of course, this I came across Reselo when I was looking for what's going on in terms of sustainability in automotive industry, and that's when I figured out that rubber, extracting natural rubber and rubber in general is the biggest source of one of the biggest source of carbon emissions in automotive industry. And I see that Reselo has turned that around, like reducing that emissions related to rubber by 90%, which is impressive. And the solution that your Reselo is working on is reusing birch bark to produce the rubber alternatives. And the very first question that came to my mind was like, why birch bark? And basically, since you are turning it into sustainable rubber, what inspired you to choose birch bark as your feedstock material? And obviously, why has this been underutilized up until now? Because I wasn't able to find anyone else doing the same.
No, I think we are targeting maybe first of all the synthetic rubber made from the oil. So that's the most pollutive rubber. And this is based on a research project that Thomas Baumgarten, my co-founder, was conducting under his PhD research in Stockholm and at Wallenberg Wood Science Center and KTH. And he found out that the birch tree and the birch bark is containing big amounts of this substance called suberin. And suberin, we have developed a process where we can polymerize the suberin into a rubber or a polymer. So I think that's the background. And there's a lot of research around and lots of solutions for plastics, but there is no solution for rubber. And rubber is used in demanding applications where you need a curing capability to get abrasion resistant, temperature resistant, and very resistant material. So that's uniqueness with the rubber. And that's what we are targeting.
Okay, makes sense. And of course, its method is very distinct from other existing natural or synthetic rubber production. So, can you just highlight like what's the like core USP of your process compared to others that might be doing the similar thing?
We haven't actually came across any alternatives, but the unique selling point with our material is that it's having the same curing, the polymerization capabilities that other rubber alternatives have today. So, for example, when you produce a car tire, you need to vulcanize the tire to get it really resistant against abrasion, for example, and getting a really low rolling resistance and getting a really good grip, friction. And we can do the same thing with our material. So it's 100% drop-in solution when it comes to rubber. So you can replace fossil-based rubber with our rubber or the polymer. The rubber is the compound. So we are replacing the polymer in the material.
And it works exactly like the existing materials, the
Yeah,
oil-driven rubber.
exactly.
That,
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. And again, my question banks on the previous one as well, since this is a novel solution and obviously very unique to the market. What kind of technical or scientific challenge did Reselo had to face or solve? Basically, how did your team solve that? Can you give me an example of that?
Yeah, I think it's as all other startups and scale-ups are facing, with scaling the process. This is like an industrialization project, so you need some kind of production. So if you go to a third-party producer, it gets very expensive because they don't have the perfect process to produce our materials, so it gets very expensive. So we need to find a solution where we can scale and have an acceptable cost in the beginning, so the customer is willing to pay for that when you're scaling. In the future, we will have a cost parity with the today's alternative, but meanwhile scaling onto a commercial volumes, that's a problem where you need to find customers who understand the uniqueness and are willing to pay and support us in scaling that from laboratory scale to commercial scale. So I think that's the big challenge.
Okay, and I think this is a scalable challenge. So I also wanted to know about it. But before that, did you also face any research or maybe developing this process? Did you face any technical challenge during that time? Or I understand that you had a very technical team.
Yeah, we have a very technical team and a very experienced team. So we're very engineering and research driven team. So of course we have some challenges, but I think all in all, if you see if you zoom out a little bit, we have been very successful in the developing and adopting the material to different kind of applications. So yeah, of course there have been challenges, and it's more maybe on the equipment side. You need to analysis equipment. You need some kind of mixers, blenders. So to get access to that kind of equipment for us to validate and test and iterate the solution, I think that's the maybe more challenging than the actual adopting and develop the material itself.
Okay, I think having a technically sound team did work out a lot in your favor in that case.
Yeah.
Uh, so now coming back to the scaling issues. So obviously you've shared, developing a factory or developing the production process that is scalable is one of the challenge. I also wanted to know the feedstock issues. Do you see any feedstock issue coming in your way in future, like sourcing birch bark on scale, to match the demand in the market? Because I see there's a huge demand, there's a huge market to capture.
Mm.
So any scalability issue from that perspective?
I don't think we can replace all the fossil-based rubber in the world, but I think we can make a significant impact and difference there. And the birch is growing around the entire northern hemisphere of the globe. So I think there is a huge amount of residues that we can access. And I think the paper mill, the sawmill, the veneer mill, or everybody is using the birch wood as a raw material. I think everybody's looking for find higher value on the waste that they are creating. So I think we are in a good position for attracting quite a lot of a big portion of the birch bark availability.
And I think, as I understand, currently this material is being burned or just going to waste. So
Yeah,
even these mills have an incentive to work with you and to, instead of burning it, to sell it to you, right?
exactly. So that's the lowest value you can do with anything. You just burn it. So that's the real waste. And you also, when you burn it, you creates a lot of CO2 emissions from that as well. So I think we can offer a better price, a better value for the bark, and we can also create like a carbon sink with the products that we are producing from the bark. So I think you have multiple benefits by providing us with the bark instead of just burning it.
That makes sense, and that's really amazing. I also wanted to understand the regulatory aspect of things. Is there any regulation consideration, unique to materials related to birch bark, that any company who want to adopt your solution, they should be aware of? Or maybe that's something that you use to scale or to portray the uniqueness of your product.
Yeah, if you look another way, if you look on the restriction that is already in place for synthetic rubber and what's coming, so I think that is working in our favor because there are coming quite a lot of regulatory restrictions for how you can use the fossil-based rubber. And there is still quite a lot of oil in the world, but I think it is an finite resource. So eventually you need to find a replacement that is renewable. So, and also the exploration itself is very dangerous. When you explore the oil, it can cause catastrophic accidents for the environment. So I think finding a renewable source for rubber is, I think, the most very clear goal that you should have. But also, especially in the European Union and in US, there are coming quite a lot of restrictions for how to use rubber, especially when it comes to in contact with human beings. And also synthetic rubber containing quite a lot of heavy metals and toxics. So it's a problem when the rubber ends up in the nature from abrasion in tires, for example. So it's a lot of restrictions coming that works in our favor.
I mean, of course, Reselo's product might also go under, or might also go testing to ensure they meet safety standards. And so, just can you reflect a little on that? How does that Reselo's product match up with those safety standards and testing, real world testing?
Yeah, sure. And we are focusing on two verticals in the beginning now. First one is shoes and fashion, where there is some testing, but quite easy specification that we fulfill already now. And then we work with automotive and tires. And and that's more on the safety sides. And that is also it's a good project because it's extensive testing, and a car tire, for example, is maybe the most demanding applications you can go for. So, and it works very well in tires as well. So it's a very good quality stamp for us that we can also be in very high demanding applications. But it's a lot of testing that needs to be done, testing and certifications before you can have a tire out on the market, a commercial products. But that's really good to do that kind of testing. It
I think
gives us good benefits.
yes, I think it works out great for the marketing as well of your product.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. You also mentioned that your consumer-based market that you're targeting. So there are like two primary markets, if I'm understanding it right. One is automotive and one is consumer goods. Can you share something about the adaptability of the product for both the market? Is how easy it is or how difficult it is to adopt Resello's product in existing production pipelines or existing supply chains for these companies?
If you take the material itself and the specifications, so we already now have a material version of the rubber that is perfect for outer soles for shoes, for example. And we have also done production verification. And since our rubber is behaving in the same way as synthetic rubber and natural rubber, it's quite easy to implement our rubber in the supply chain, in the production. That's already now verified that is working very well. And we also have done quite a lot of testing and verification with several brands, so we know it's working very well. When it comes to tires, for example, that's much more extensive testing and certification that is needed. So that's a little bit longer projects. You need to produce quite many tires and drive it for many thousands of kilometers and test it in different kinds of temperatures, environments, different kinds of surfaces, in snow, in heat, in desert. So it's much more testing there, but it gives us a lot of credibility, and we can develop our material to fit really, really demanding applications, which is super good for us, of course. It benefits all the other segments as well, all the other verticals.
Makes sense. I think then one of the few last question that I've left is one is obviously related to your this future plan and maybe entering into any new market or finding any other application of the new production process that Reselo has developed. Can you share something? What how Reselo is planning to expand in future?
Yeah, we are currently fundraising for preparing the production. So we have a production, we can produce around 100 tons today in a pilot plant, but we need to scale that to meet the demands from the customers. So we are currently fundraising to prepare the production. It can be our own production, but it can also be in partnership with other ones, paper mills, chemical companies who want to produce our materials. So we are focusing now to secure the customer projects, secure the offtake agreements, and then we will focus on scaling the production.
And with that, I think, Henrik, I'm at the end of the line of my question. Just one thing I was curious about. Actually, I was looking at your profile and I see that you've worked with a lot of companies and you've given, and as you have shared, your team has faced technical challenges as well as scaling challenges that you are already solving. I wanted to ask that during this entire journey of, from starting coming up with this idea and then, finally developing the solutions, did you ever feel like that maybe this might not work, or this is a little difficult to scale, or maybe just that giving up thoughts, and how did you overcome those? Any tip you'd like to share with me?
Yeah, it always. I think it's more. I don't think it's so much technical challenges on like the scaling. Technical challenges. Of course, we have some technical challenges, but we have been, as I said, we have a brilliant team that have solved all the upcoming things that has come, and I think it's more on the when you're talking to investors, for example, everybody's afraid of industrialization projects, and it's a lot of investment setting up a factory. Everybody's afraid of that right now. Everybody's talking about SaaS solution or artificial intelligence. Then it's easy to raise money, but I think the funding is the most, time consuming to get the investors to understand how brilliant this solution is, how unique this solution is. So that's, I think, what we maybe have spent most of the times and has been banging our heads against the wall many times.
How do you keep yourself motivated and always driving forward to solve these, uh, maybe talking to investors, or motivating your team to keep solving more challenges? Is there anything that you follow specifically?
Yeah, I think first of all we are three founders in the company, and we are talking every day, so and debriefing each other and helping each other. So I think that's one important thing, that you share your doubts, you share your struggles and challenges, and we're very good in helping each other, okay, and supporting each other. And we also try to look back and see what all the things that we actually have accomplished. So we try to celebrate a little bit here and then, and really try to, yeah, understand that we are progressing. Sometimes you only think you're doing with new problems, but if you look back and step back a little bit and zoom out, and you can see, yeah, we actually done so many things in a very short time.
New problems becomes old problems which are already solved. So I think, yeah, that keeps on motivating
Yeah,
you.
yep,
Thank you for this. This is an amazing answer, and I'll take it to my heart. uh, so with that, Henrik, I think that was it, and thanks for such brief and short answers. I got to know a lot.
great. Thank you very much.